Hi all, this is Once and Future Gamer and welcome to another Pokemon Challenge. Last time was a run through Generation 3 as we sought to see if I could beat Pokemon Emerald with only a single Gulpin. A run not without its intrigue. Today though, I suspect the difficulty level gets kicked up a notch as we head to Sinnoh and see if I can beat Pokemon Platinum with only a single Skorupi. Skorupi is quite unique as it is the only bug/poison Pokemon to have poison as its primary type rather than secondary. We have a 330 base stat total, which is probably a bit better than the average first form starter. It's on a par with stuff like Aron, Weasel, Teddiursa and Delibird. Our defence is far and away our best stat with 90. Our speed is decent at 65 too. It's only really our HP and special attack that are indifferent. Since we are bug and poison, we're weak to flying, rock, fire and psychic. We resist fighting, poison, bug and grass. Via level up we get some interesting moves. There's bug, dark and poison moves in our arsenal, with crunch and cross poison being two that interest me massively. However, there is also acupressure, which will boost a random stat 2 stages, which could be chaotic for sure and likely not a viable long-term strategy. Via TM we get some good moves to show. We get ground, steel, fighting, rock and flying moves. We do get Shadow Ball and Dark Pulse, but we probably aren't going to get a lot out of them. Swords Dance as a game corner TM is a nice option to have, since there are a lot of intimidators in this game. If I want a good bug move, there is X-Scissor. Via Tutor, we could get Aqua Tail, but it isn't until post-game, alas. Predictions. The Rock Gym might take a few tries due to us not getting anything too fantastic for them, a neutral bite aside. I don't see us having any issues with the Grass Gym in this run. The Ghost Gym might not be too bad, the Fighting Gym should be okay too. The Water and Steel gyms might get interesting. Cyrus could be a hard fight, particularly the Distortion World one. The last 3 fights of the game might be rough versus Flint, Lucian and Cynthia. The rules are on the screen throughout. Big shout out to Patreon Jason Cabanuk, who suggested this challenge as he did with last week. As always, if you do enjoy what you see, then like, subscribe and ring that bell. I use the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Turtwig with Skorupi, so that I can do the whole run with it. I chose to replace Turtwig so that the rival will have Chimchar, which is the hardest for us to fight throughout the game. I'm not even kidding, that final rival fight is liable to be awful. The first one isn't too bad. Well, it might be a challenge if he actually went to attack us, but nah, he's too cool for that. The fight begins and we land a bite, but don't get a flinch, and he goes for Leer. He goes for that move every single turn of the fight, trying to creep us out. In all fairness, you see a tiny, fiery monkey leering at you, it is bound to be a bit unsettling. We try a few poison stings, trying to get the poison condition, but no joy, so eventually I switch back to bite to leave it on the brink of defeat. It still hasn't attacked, you know, and eventually we finish it off with Poison Sting to give us victory. Now then, we travel to the Pokemon Lab and nickname our Skorupi Scorpina because I'm feeling a wee bit retro and she's female. If she'd been male, I don't know what I would have gone with. Something OTT like Sandsting maybe. Also, our Skorupi has a hardy nature, which I believe and confirm shortly after is neutral, so that could have been much worse. Mind you, anything that lowers our special attack and boosted anything else would have been great, since I don't plan on using that special attack. Oh, and we have the Battle Armour ability, so we cannot be hit with a critical hit, which is very nice. The other ability was Sniper, so either would have been pretty good. It's a shame this challenge isn't in Gen 8 because with Dynamax I would have loved to shout, "Make my Scorpina grow!" that was terrible. Right then, time to start the EV grind. I want attack for sure, maybe attack and speed. Defence should be okay, so I might not need to worry about EVs in our defence. So I need to knock out Shinx for attack EVs and Starly for speed EVs. Let's go and do this. Looking at the picture on the right of the screen and even Skorupi's sprite, I have to wonder about what's going on with those eyes. They appear to be sticking up out of its head. Ah well, the rock gym is going to be the first major obstacle, so I really want to be as strong as possible heading into that, because it could be a rough fight given that we are weak to the rock type. After much training, it's time to head east from Jubilife City, and there is a rival fight waiting for us. We have got a bit of a level lead, so we should have an advantage, and it's nailed home a bit right at the start of the fight when we one-hit crit his Starly with a bite. That's not a stab move though, and I wonder how long it will carry us. Next is Chimchar, and this one is a bit tougher as we start to bite it, taking a scratch in exchange, though our second bite does get a fortunate flinch before our third one takes it down. Rock gym time then, and the fight with Roark. I do get to level 18 before this fight, and I do have acupressure, so maybe I can get some fortune with this. Knowing my luck, it'll probably repeatedly buff our special attack and defence, which we do not need. But it might give us some joy, so I'll try it. It could give us an advantage. I use acupressure 3 times throughout this fight. I get 2 evasion buffs, so the equivalent of using double team 4 times. And of course, Geodude still hits us almost at will. The other one is a buff for our special attack, which really doesn't help in the slightest. Our bite doesn't do a lot of damage, and of course we never get a flinch. Now if that had been the other way around and Geodude was trying to flinch us, we probably have never moved due to repeated flinching. Anyway, we do wear it down to the point where he needs to use a potion, but he heals up and we never really come close to taking it down, and we lose. I'll go get a few more levels, I'll improve our stats a bit more and see if that favours us. I come back in at level 20 and I go again. This time we go for acupressure and get a sharp special defence buff. Well, that's not going to help at all as we get hit with rock throw from Geodude. That said though, I try my hand at another one, and off the second acupressure we get an attack buff, and thanks to that we can tear through Geodude with a bite attack and wreck most of its health. It does hit another rock throw, but we get Roark to waste a potion and we eventually take it down hard to give us a win. Onix also hits us with a rock throw, but Onix doesn't hit particularly hard at all, and it does less damage than Geodude did with the same move. It also misses 1 rock throw, which is handy, and we get Roark to waste another potion, and we soon rip it down hardly to take the victory over the rock snake. This is why Swords Dance will likely be useful later in the run. Craniadose is last, and thanks to Mold Breaker, it can probably crit us, so I need to be careful. Sod's Law says if it can crit, it will do. We are faster, which is always useful versus Craniadose, because otherwise you are asking to be stun locked, and we take it down with 2 bites, surviving a headbutt in exchange. 1 badge down. Next is the Valley Windworks fight versus Commander Mars, and at least we don't have to worry about being toxic poisoned by her Zubat, so that's something I guess. Pure Ugly will likely be an obstacle though. I think it's time to crack out acupressure once again and hope for the best. Pure Ugly is surprisingly tanky at this point in the game. I go for an acupressure on Zubat and we get a double attack buff, which is nice. Zubat hits Bite for pretty minimal damage and we duly take it down with a bite of our own before Pure Ugly is next, and this thing is bulky even with our attack buff. I'm not sure we would have won without that fortunate acupressure, you know. Or at least it would have been worryingly close. We get hit with Fake Out to flinch, it is faster than us throughout, and we trade blows. We land bites and a free hit pin missile that narrowly misses, knocking it out, and we get hit with scratches in exchange. But our level advantage and our buff becomes telling, and we finally drop it to take the win. The grass gym is next, and given we quad resist that type, I think this one might be a relatively smooth fight. Relatively, Gardenia is usually a hard fight, I will say that. I'd say she's one of the hardest gym leaders in Sinnoh. I might go for a few acupressures in hopes of getting an attack buff, and then rely on Pin Missile. I can see a flaw in this strategy already. Pin Missile is not the most accurate of moves. Mind you, I know Turtwig always goes for Reflect on the first turn, and since we are a physical attacker, maybe going for a few acupressures until the Reflect goes down isn't the worst idea. I take it back. I realise that Turtwig very genuinely cannot hurt us since it only has Grass Knot and Razor Leaf as attacking moves, and given that both of our defence stats get buffed over the course of our acupressure session, I use that move not once, not twice, not 3 times, not even 5 times, not even 8 times. I use it 11 times, getting evasion boosts, accuracy boosts, and even 2 attack boosts, all of which mean that we are somewhat approaching unstoppable for this point in the game. When the second Reflect Turtwig puts up, goes down, we strike it hard with an accuracy and attack boosted Pin Missile and just about absolutely wreck her Grass Turtle. Now that was promising. Cherim is next, and about the only thing it does is change form in the sun before we blast it down with a Pin Missile. Roserade is a little harder, but it's more irritating than hard at this point, as we crit our first Pin Missile and then it survives on red health thanks to the Citrus Berry. Because Gardenia has to be annoying, we get hit with Stun Spore, but even paralysed, we are actually still faster thanks to the speed buff from Acupressure. We have to watch her heal it, but we can soon take it down for the second badge on the first try. Jupiter is next, and this one could be worrying since we don't have a fantastic way to hurt her Skunk Tank, but I guess we'll figure something out. Might Acupressure versus her Zubat and see what sort of fortune we get, because that might be our best chance. It's worrying, huh? We should get some better moves soon. Pin Missile is probably our best option, but the low accuracy plus the chance of Smokescreen could be worrying. This fight goes badly. I try for Acupressure versus Zubat, but we get a special attack boost which doesn't help, and although we too hit that with Bite, we also get clipped with 2 wing attacks that don't do massive damage individually, but together they cut a decent chunk out of our health. We just cannot do enough damage to Skunk Tank with Pin Missile, and that is a problem. It's the main reason I hate multi-hit moves, because when you need them to work in your favour, they generally don't. We do crit the first one, we do wear Skunk Tank down to the point where it has to eat its berry to heal its wounds, but it just keeps hitting us with Night Slash, and it's just no good, as it can very quickly overwhelm us in just a few turns and we go down. I think I've got 2 choices. Go and level some more, or keep trying until I get an attack boost on Acupressure. I'll make some attempts with the latter choice and see what happens. The very first attempt I throw caution to the wind and go for 6 Acupressures versus Zubat, getting an attack rise at the very final attempt. I get an accuracy boost, 2 special attack boosts, which massively unhelpful, but quite keyly, an evasion boost and a defense boost. So we're not going to get hit as often, and we're going to weather those blows better. When we do get the attack boost, we drop Zubat with Bite. We can hurt Skuntank quite a bit more with our Pin Missile thanks to the attack buff, even getting a crit that drops its health quite low near the end of the fight, and that is massively welcome. We do get hit with a Night Slash and a Smoke Screen when it is nearly defeated, so I decide to go for caution and finish it with Bite rather than chancing the less than optimal accuracy of Pin Missile, since we had taken a bit of a beating ourselves. Skorupi trivia. As I said, it's the only bug/poison type to have poison as its primary type. It's also the only bug type Pokemon that loses the bug type on evolution. Skorupi and Drapion are the only Gen 4 Pokemon to have an insectoid body type, and they're also the only Generation 4 Pokemon in the water-free egg group. This may shock you, but Skorupi is based on a scorpion. Dum dum dum! That water egg group might be a reference to sea scorpions that used to inhabit the oceans, and may have been the ancestor of modern scorpions. According to some Pokédex entries, it can survive a year without food. The next major fight is the Ghost Gym, and given we have a dark move, this should pretty much not be an issue. I mean, I am sure there will be a few surprises in store, and I would have preferred it if the move were Crunch going into this fight, but we will have to make do with Bite. Oh well, I'm sure it will perform admirably. They didn't change every gym from Diamond and Pearl to Platinum, but they definitely improved the design of this gym. No more math puzzles. Yay! Fantina begins with Duskull, and I'm confident we will one-hit it with Bite. We don't, and it immediately misses Will-O-Wisp, which is massive. She does heal the Duskull, and we can take it out with 2 more bites. At least we got her to waste a super potion. Not a bad exchange. Next is Mismagius. I have Bug Bite and I could get rid of the Citrus Berry, but no point. Bite does about 2/3 of its health. We then get hit with Confuse Ray, and the words "Oh no!" spring to mind. We take damage from hitting ourselves in confusion, then blasted with a Psybeam, but we do manage to take Mismagius down for the count with a Bite, fighting through confusion. Haunter should be a one-hit with Bite, but the fight takes a dramatic turn when we hit ourselves in confusion and then get put to sleep. Haunter hits us with Shadow Claw repeatedly, over and over for about 4 turns as our health gets lower and lower, until eventually, with us on 5 HP, we wake up, we fight through the confusion and drop it with Bite. Phew, that was close. There is a rival fight before we leave town, and I figure I need to be careful, since he will have an intimidating Staravia and a 2nd stage Fire Starter, so this is not going to be easy for sure. We begin the fight and he has the Staravia as expected. We hit it with 3 bites, getting a flinch while it also goes for double team, but we land the 3rd bite and it survives on 1 HP. You want to know how I know this? Because it then went for Endeavour and Quick Attack. What a colossal a-hole. I will try this again. I'm going to acupressure him. Screw it. I make an attempt where I go down to Monferno after getting burned, but the attempt after that goes much better. Kind of. It's still not an optimal win. There's still a lot of fortune and it ends up closer than expected. Versus Staravia, we go for acupressure 5 times, getting 2 sharp defense buffs, 2 sharp accuracy buffs, and finally a sharp attack buff. It never really attacks us beyond a single wing attack, rather just going for double team a lot. When we are ready to attack, we drop it with 2 bites. Monferno is harder. We don't have a great way of hurting it thanks to its typing. The only neutral damage move we have is Poison Sting, with both Bite and Bug Bite being resisted. Still, I figure Bite is our best chance because we might at least get a flinch chance in there too. We land some blows, it hits a Leer and a Flame Wheel and burns us once again as we are on the verge of finishing it off. That's most annoying for sure, being burned at this juncture. I don't know which will hurt more, the health loss or the attack debuff. Weasel does land a water gun, but we can take it down with 2 bug bites to get some health back thanks to the shell bell, though we lose more health to the burn damage, which is still annoying. I think we shouldn't have an issue versus Roselia, but it survives bug bite and hits Leech Seed, which I didn't see coming. Thankfully, the combined seed and burn damage isn't fatal and we can drop it with another bug bite. Way too close that. I make my way to Veilstone City and I purchase the Swords Dance TM from the game corner, as well as going back to the Orborough Gate to get the Brick Break TM, and with that in hand I'm ready to confront Maylene. I don't think we'll have too much trouble here, and it turns out that I'm right. I go for a Swords Dance versus Meditite and we get lucky as it misses Rock Tomb. Now, I don't believe in pushing my luck, and so we drop Meditite with a Poison Fang. Next up is Match Oak, and I don't know if we will one hit it, but I go for a Poison Fang and we get a crit, which is much welcomed and we drop it hard. Last up is Lucario, and this is the reason I went to get Brick Break before this fight. Actually though, that move will probably be useful the entire game, and we duly one hit it with Brick Break for the 4th badge. There is a bit of travelling towards Pastoria City next, and when we get there, there is the next rival fight, and it should be a bit easier this time since we do have some better moves than we did before. We nearly do come a cropper versus Staravia as we get intimidated right at the start. I go for a Swords Dance and we get hit with a wing attack, weathering it quite well, so I decide to go for another Swords Dance. At which point Rod and his Staravia decide to go into full-on awkward mode and begin to spam double team, and we miss 3 or 4 Poison Fangs in a row on the bird, meaning that we're biting into the wind as it is slowly getting more evasive. Worse, we get struck with another wing attack which drops us below half health. We cannot take much more of those. Thankfully, we drop it with Crunch. The rest of the fight is pretty simple. Monferno goes down to a Poison Fang on the next turn before Weasel does land an Aqua Jet for minimal damage. We strike that down with a Poison Fang though, and the last opponent is Roselia, who also doesn't resist our Poison Fang and duly gets folded by the move to give us a win over the rival. It's time for the Water Temple then, and the face-off with Crash Awake. This fight usually has its tricky moments, but if we can power up with Swords Dance and not get beaten up too badly by Gyarados, we should be fine. I was hoping to have Cross Poison before this battle, but I am 1 level off it and I don't really want to wait. So, fun fact, after 2 Swords Dancers we cannot one-hit Gyarados with Poison Fang. I might try Crunch, as even with Stab it is still stronger. We do about 3/4 of its health with a +3 Poison Fang, and although the waterfall attacks don't do a massive damage, they do mount up and it can soon finish us off with Brine when I misjudge if he is going to heal or not. So, not a great first attempt, but let me try that again. We make a second attempt that goes slightly better as we go into Quagsire with +5 in attack, but we just can't one-hit that with Crunch, and it survives on a Sliver before hitting Mudshot, which drops our speed. When Wake heals his Mudfish, we go for a 4th Swords Dance and take it out on the next turn. The bad news is we are slower than Floatzel now. We've been beaten up and we duly get taken down with brine. I hate that move so much. I grind another level up to 51 and get cross poison in the attempt. This may give us an edge. This might be our final moveset if I'm honest. About the only thing it's not ideal against is the Croagunk line, but there is very few of those fights in this game. I try again on Wake. We go for 3 Swords Dance attacks versus Gyarados to put us at +5 since we are intimidated right at the start. I hope we get fortunate this time versus Quagsire. We get hit with 3 waterfalls to drop us below half health, but we strike Gyarados down with cross poison. Quagsire is out next. We hit a crunch and this is the moment of truth, but we drop it hard for a knockout. And this time, since we are not slower, we can take Floatzel down with an issue. We strike it with cross poison and the fight is over. The next major fight is a Cyrus one in Celestic Town, and this is never usually a hard one. When I do the 100th challenge, I might pass comment on what I personally think are the 10 hardest fights in these solo challenges, and Celestic Town Cyrus would not be anywhere near that list. Distortion World Cyrus, however, might be a different story. He begins with Sneasel and we go for a Swords Dance immediately. Not because I'm worried about Sneasel, but he does have 2 flying types after and I want to be stronger, just in case. We get hit with Screech, which isn't ideal, before we drop Sneasel with a quad effective Brick Break. Next is Murkrow and we down it with a single cross poison for a knockout before Golbat is last. And since Crunch is our only really effective move, we land it. Unfortunately, it survives on red health, but we do get the defense drop. Golbat hits an Air Cutter for decent damage before Cyrus heals it, but we take it out at the second attempt. Thankfully, Golbat isn't really a special attacker, and we are immune to crits, so works out nicely. In Canalave City, there's a rival fight before we can hit the gym, and this could be a little worrying since his team is really starting to take shape and he has some fully evolved Pokemon now, which are not going to be fun to tackle. This fight isn't too bad, but I do have a few moments of panic versus Staraptor. We get intimidated by his bird, but I manage to go for 2 Swords Dance attacks to get our attack up, all while it repeatedly goes for double team, and I do mean repeatedly. I start to get leery and go for the kill with cross poison, but we miss a handful of the moves until it strikes us with an aerial ace, which doesn't do that bad damage actually, but I wouldn't fancy taking 3 or 4 of them. We do strike Staraptor down with cross poison on the next turn though. Infernape is next and we thankfully one-hit that opponent with the same move before Heracross is his third choice. When it comes out, we crit our cross poison to end it quickly. Floatzel and Roserade aren't particularly tough opponents either. We're on the rampage at this point and we end them both with cross poison attacks too, giving us a win over the rival, and I'm somewhat relieved, I will say, especially since the next 2 battles involving the rival bring about some frustration. Steel Gym time then. I swept the rival with cross poison, but I'm not going to be able to pull that trick here. Lucky we have that Brick Break I guess, because we are going to be leaning heavily on it versus Byron to overcome his defences. I don't think this will be easy, but we do have the tools to overcome him. We go for 2 Swords Dance attacks versus Magneton to boost our attack right up, because we need to be able to hit him suitably hard. But we get hit with 2 Thunderbolts that put us on red health. That's not good, but a bigger worry was paralysis, which we have avoided, so we can drop Magneton on the next turn with Brick Break. Bastiodon is next and we hit it with Brick Break. We are at +4 in attack, using a quad effective move on a Pokemon 20 levels lower. I'm not entirely sure what Byron expected to happen here, but it goes down and Steelix comes out. This one actually survives our brick break and hits us with Earthquake, but we weather it. I could go for another Swords Dance since he will probably heal, but I'd never forgive myself if he actually went for another attack and then defeated us. So we have to defeat him with 2 more brick breaks after he actually does use the full restore. 6 badges down then. Next we have got a fight with Commander Wolverine, and this could be an interesting one since he has that one type combination of Pokemon that we don't do particularly well against with our current moveset. Oh well, brute force it is then. A pair of Swords Dance attacks come into play versus Golbat. I go for the second when it misses Air Cutter, and I take my chance to get the move up. We then drop it with Crunch for a win. Bronzor is next, and again we strike a Crunch to take it down, breaking through its defences hardily to take the win. And up last is that Toxicroak. All our moves are going to be resisted, so I go for the Stab Cross Poison and do pretty decent damage before it misses Mud Bomb, and we can take it down pretty easily with a second Cross Poison. That's him done for the moment. There is a fight with Mars next, and I'm sure we will be able to overcome her. I think my biggest worries are the Golbat for sure, as they are more than capable of messing us up if we're not careful. Wherever there may be Golbat, there's usually confusion tactics following shortly after. I spend a few moments working out what our player sprite is doing with their arms on the screen when we stop moving, and then the fight begins. We Swords Dance versus Golbat, who misses Supersonic. I'm not wasting time and hit a Crunch attack that it survives before lashing us with Air Cutter. We drop it with another Crunch to put us 1 up. Bronzor is next, and though it survives our Crunch, it only goes for Iron Defense, and we can take it down on the next turn with another Crunch before Pure Ugly is last. We get hit with Fake Out for minimal damage, but it doesn't alter the result of the fight as we drop the Cat with a Brick Break. Just a few words on the channel as we go through Mount Coronet then. I've been still trying to upload as consistently as I can. I did finish Resident Evil 4 Remake at long last. I uploaded to some Pokemon Gold Unova, but I'm not sure how much more I'm going to do of that game. It's getting quite tiresome, quite repetitive come this point, and I'm not sure how interesting watching me play it actually is. I've been playing Ocarina of Time to get some episodes ready for that. I've even started playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor 2, and I am loving that. Oh, and then there's Resident Evil 3 Remake I want to start playing at some point too. I have played it before, but about 2 years ago. Challenge wise, I think for the next one I'm going to jump ahead a few generations for the next challenge. I am going to head to Carlos and see if I can beat Pokemon Y using just a single Vivillon. I'm intrigued at that. I haven't done a Gen 6 challenge since the back end of last year when it was with Skidoo, and I wanted to get it in before Scarlet and Violet released and the Grass Goat came back to the franchise. Is it Vivillon? Vivion? Something like that. I don't know, I'll work it out before next week. As always, if you have any ideas for future challenges, head to the comment section down below or follow the link in the description to my Twitter or my Discord. I am always interested to hear what you have in mind. I've got a few viewer submissions coming up over the next few challenges. Well, Gulpin last time and Skorupi this time were viewer suggested. Now I appear to have scrapped the themed months for the time being. It does make it slightly easier. As always, if you want to support the channel, don't forget to like and or comment on this video, as well as smash that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Also, if you want to aid financially, there is a link to my Patreon in the description. If not, then no worries, these are hard times, I do appreciate that, but if you know anyone who may like Pokemon challenges or slightly stiltedly awkward Let's Plays, tell them about it. Word of mouth is a powerful thing. The Ice Gym is the next major fight, and this has perhaps the most irritating gym puzzle in any single Pokemon game in existence. I cannot put into words just how much I dislike the slidey icy snowball puzzle here. Well, other than the fact I mention it every single time I run this game. My girlfriend says I'm predictable. Oh well. Anyway, this fight isn't that bad. We go for a swords dance versus Sneasel and get tagged with Aerial Ace, which does about a 6 of our health. I consider another swords dance an appropriate trade-off for getting hit with another Aerial Ace, and suddenly we are powered up. With our attack at +4, we lamp Sneasel with Brick Break. Piloswine is next, and we also strike it with Brick Break, meaning that we are doing pretty well. Frostlass is next, and that suits me fine as we knock it out with Crunch for a 3rd KO. Last is a Bomb of Snow, and when this thing comes out early it is annoying due to the hail it brings, but a crit cross poison downs it in swift fashion and we have 7 badges. We've got Team Galactic stuff next as we have to fight Cyrus, Saturn, the 2 commanders, and then Cyrus again in somewhat quick succession. Oh, and a series of nameless, pretty much faceless grunts, but that's not an issue. First is the Cyrus fight in the Galactic Veilstone building. This one shouldn't be too bad, not like the next one. We'll see, I guess. Okay, it goes badly at the end. We go for 2 swords dancers versus Sneasel, who lands 2 screechers on us, which isn't exactly ideal, but if we can avoid getting hit, we should be fine. With our attack decent, we strike Sneasel with Brick Break to take it down. Honchkrow is next, and that is also a 1-hit with Cross Poison, meaning that we can go into Crobat, and this is where it goes wrong. It lands Supersonic because it is faster than us, and of course we hit ourselves in confusion. With our attack at +4 and our defence at -4, this does a massive amount of damage and we get taken out on the next turn with an Air Cutter. That was unlucky. Let's try that again. I mean, it sounds like sour grapes, but 2 85% accuracy moves landed in a row, a move that only hits 55% of the time lands, and then we have roughly half a chance of hitting ourselves in confusion? That's a pretty unfortunate row of circumstances, I must say. This time goes exceptionally better, as Sneasel only goes for 2 Ice Punches rather than screeching at us, so once again we get our 2 swords dancers up and we can fight our way through to Crobat. This time it doesn't try to confuse us, it only goes for an Air Cutter, which does decent damage, but we shrug it off and down it with Crunch for a victory over the Team Galactic leader. Commander Wolverine then. He's all talk, but there are a few hairy moments in this fight, not that we ever really look like losing. We go for a swords dance versus his Golbat while it strikes us with Air Cutter for somewhat decent damage, and that leaves me a little leery. I go for Crunch, but Golbat survives it on a sliver, and that's not good as we have to take another attack. We take it out on the next turn, but the damage is done. Anything with confusion potential makes me wary. I go for another swords dance versus Bronzor, since I doubt it will be able to knock us out even in our weakened state, and I'm proven right as we tank an extra sensory. Trust me, I know exactly about Bronzor's capabilities, since I did a run with it in Pokemon Pearl once. We drop it with Crunch, and then we crit a Cross Poison on Toxicroak to take it down in 1 hit, and that is a massive relief for sure, since I think it's the last time we have to deal with the only type combo in the game that resists all our moves. Right then, it is time to go up Mount Coronet, and time for one of the most aggravating battles in Pokemon history. It's time for the battle where not only do you have to fight Mars and Jupiter, but you have to contend with the most unhelpful battle partner ever in the Rivals Munchlax. This takes several attempts as I work out the best way to go through the fight, and eventually I figure out that it is best to take down Mars's Pokemon first, since we can't one-hit Jupiter's Skunk Tank with only 2 Swords Dancers. The best approach is to do 2 Swords Dance attacks, knowing that they will go for dual screens on the first turn, and to then hope that when it comes for the extra sensory attacks, they go for the Munchlax, who is nigh on useless in this fight, as it keeps using Stockpile and Swallow, rather than going for the brave choice of attacking. We managed to drop one of the Bronzor with Brick Break to shatter the screens before we face the Golbat and drop that with a Crunch. All the while, the other Bronzor keeps attacking with extrasensory attacks, which, individually, not too bad, but they do mount up over time. Pure Ugly is faster and lands an Aerial Ace, but we can shrug it off and drop that with a Brick Break. The best thing I've found to do with this fight is turn it into a 2-on-1 as soon as possible, or rather a 1.5-on-1, given how much the Munchlax actually contributes. We can't one-hit Skuntank, I know from a previous attempt, and so I go for another Swords Dance while the surviving Bronzor goes for Reflect, and we survive an extrasensory before dropping it with Brick Break. And then we have to take the Skuntank down with another Brick Break to put us on the brink of victory. And finally, we hit the second Golbat with Crunch for a swift win to give us victory in one of the hardest fights in the entire series. It only took 4 efforts, for which I suppose I am grateful for. Next is Cyrus, and this one could be insanely rough, given he has some flying types on his team, as well as an Intimidator. Oh yeah, he opens with a fire type as well. I really am worried about this one for sure. We might lose quite a few attempts and might need to go and get some more levels. I can see that being an outcome. Okay, so this isn't even close. We cannot even one-hit the notoriously frail Houndoom without a Swords Dance. It survives our Brick Break on a Slither. However, we do get a Swords Dance up when he heals his Dark Doggo and take it out at the next attempt, though we took a lot of damage from Flamethrower. Honchkrow is out next, and with only one Swords Dance going, we cannot one-hit that with Cross Poison. And when I misjudge if he is going to heal or not, I go for another Swords Dance, but we get taken out with Night Slash and Drill Peck. Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen at this level for sure. I go and train up to level 78, 10 whole levels later. Hey, I didn't want to walk up Mount Coronet to get to the Distortion World more than I have to, so I figured go big or go home. I will make a few efforts and see how this ends up playing out. It does take a few efforts as I work stuff out, and in the winning run I get maybe 4 bits of fortune, 4 separate bits of good luck. The first one is versus Houndoom. We go for a Swords Dance and then it misses Will-O-Wisp, which is massive. That's number 1. The second is versus Honchkrow, when we go for another Swords Dance. It hits a Heat Wave and gets a low damage roll because a high roll would have put us under half health. Also, we didn't get burned and we drop it with Cross Poison. The third bit of good luck is not getting flinched by Crobat's Air Slash, as we drop it with Crunch. Before, versus Gyarados, we get our 4th piece of fortune when we crit it with Cross Poison. And last is Weavile, who hits us with Fake Out, but somehow we are faster and we can take it out on the next turn with Brick Break. Let us call that a result, I think. The next major fight is the Electric Gym, and then it's on to the Pokemon League. I think we should be okay in this gym, but my big worry is paralysis, I will say that. Jolteon has Thunder Wave, Raichu has Static, so either could mess us up. Both Luxray and Electivire have fire moves too. We get some fortune, although not at the start. We strike Jolteon with a Cross Poison, but it survives, and although we do poison it, it manages to counter with Thunder Wave to paralyse us. So that's my strategy of hoping we don't get paralysed out of the window. Poison drops it into healing range, so as Volkner uses the Hyper Potion, I managed to get 2 Swords Dances happening, all while we get hit with a few Charge Beams. Thankfully though, we weather them and can take Jolteon down with another cross poison, which crits this time. Couldn't have done that last time, could it? Thanks to nothing. Thanks to paralysis, Luxray hits 2 Fire Fangs, but our physical defence is good and we tank them before dropping it with cross poison, which, massive relief. We take a Fire Punch from Electivire and thankfully fight through the paralysis to take it down with cross poison, which, massive relief because another Fire Punch might have caused us problems. Raichu hits Charge Beam, which we managed to tank though our health is low. If we get fully paralysed here, we are doomed because we will not survive a second move. For the 3rd turn in a row, we fight through paralysis and drop Raichu with cross poison to give us victory and the last badge. Going through Victory Road, we're almost at the Pokemon League. Before we can face the Elite Four, we have the final rival fight of the run, and I can see this one being problematic. Our physical defence might be good, but it's going to have to be to deal with being Brave Birded by Staraptor. Except, well, it never does that, so I'll take it. We go for Swords Dance number 1 versus Staraptor. It hits us with Aerial Ace for a quarter of our health, and I figure we can tank another one of those moves, so I go for a second Swords Dance to put us at +3 in attack thanks to the Intimidate. Another Aerial Ace comes our way and then we go on the attack. Cross Poison nails Staraptor and we get some health back as Infernape enters the battlefield for combat. It gets nailed with Cross Poison and we drop it where it stands to put us 2 up in the fight. Snorlax is 3rd and we slam a Brick Break into it to drop it like a ton of bricks. Heracross is 4th and once again Cross Poison is the move we use to take it out before the next opponent up for battle is Floatzel. It does about as well as the previous 4 opponents did and goes crashing down to Cross Poison. Before Roserade is the last opponent, and since I'm a big believer in if it ain't broke, don't fix it, we strike it with Cross Poison to knock it out and take the victory. Now that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. As I stand in the entrance hall ahead of the Elite Four challenge, here are our stats at level 85. And well, there's things to say for sure. I am exceptionally happy with the defence and the speed. The attack isn't too bad, and we can at least supplement that with Swords Dance. But I wonder if that low special defence is going to cost us at some point, particularly versus Flint and Lucian, both of whom can hit us with super effective stab potentially. Aaron shouldn't be a problem if we can adequately power up. I can see Bertha being a bit more of an issue. I think it might be rough until we can power up enough to take her down, but both Flint and Lucian can probably badly hurt us before we get the chance to power up, so we will be running catch up. And Cynthia is going to be Cynthia, let's be honest. Take your guesses on if I can do it at this level or not right now, folks. Bug Trainer Aaron is 1st, and while he shouldn't be much of an issue, he does have some Pokemon to be careful of, like Scizor and Drapion from a defensive standpoint. Heracross can hit hard, Vespiquen is annoying with pressure, and Yanmega likes to double team and speed boost, so it's not going to be fun. Said Yanmega is 1st and we go for Swords Dance while it goes for double team and the speed boost kicks in. That makes it faster and it goes for another double team on the next round, and that forces us to miss our Cross Poison. Yikes! It goes for a 3rd double team, but we drop it with a Cross Poison at long last. That's good because that could have gone very badly very quickly. Vespiquen is next and I go for another Swords Dance to boost our attack further while she goes for a Defend Order. We strike a Cross Poison to down the Queen Bee very quickly, and that's a relief. Next is Drapion. We go for a 3rd Swords Dance while it goes for Aerial Ace, which doesn't do a whole lot of damage to us, and then we slam a Brick Break into our evolved form to take it down. Heracross goes down to Cross Poison, before we smash Scissor at the end with a brick break to defeat that too, and we've got one opponent down. Phew! Ground Trainer Bertha is next, and where there's ground types there tends to be rock type coverage too, so this could be somewhat unpleasant. We do have a fighting type move, but how effective it is likely to be up for debate. We need to power up as much as possible. This is actually quite a smooth fight though. Whiscash is first and I am all too happy with that. I'll take it all day as I go for 3 Swords Dance attacks in a row, while Whiscash uses Sandstorm and then hits us with Earth Power twice, which each time does neutral damage, and while they do hurt, the blows are far from fatal. The good news is we are now suitably powered up and we can go on the sweep as we down Whiscash with Crunch. Out next is Gliscor, and that is also quickly taken down with Crunch before the next opponent is Golem. It's time to move to the Brick Break and we slam that move into the Rock type to bring it down. Rhyperia is fourth and Brick Break downs it before the last opponent is the Hippowdon, and we tear into that with a Crunch to take it down and give us a win that I am pleased about. Now let's go into the really hard one. Fire type Trainer Flint is next, so we're operating at a massive disadvantage here for sure. I can't see him letting us off the hook while we use Swords Dance attacks. I might have to go for just one and hope for the best. So, this fight. The first attempt is aborted pretty quickly when Houndoom burns us with Flamethrower after one Swords Dance. However, the second one comes very quickly after, and this, well, we very nearly managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. We get lucky at the start as we Swords Dance, and Houndoom only goes for Sunny Day. Lucky might be a relative term if we do get hit with a fire attack now. We take Houndoom down with Brick Break very quickly. Next is Flareon, and we strike a Cross Poison to drop that very quickly too, and given Flareon has decent defence, I'm happy enough at that. Rapidash is third, we take that out with another Cross Poison, and I was worried that it might survive. I think Magmortar definitely will live a Cross Poison, but no, I'm surprised to see that it gets taken out by the blow. And last is Infernape, and this is nearly where it goes wrong. We hit a Cross Poison and it survives on a Sliver, though we do poison it. The Flaming Monkey then hits a massive damage Flare Blitz that, even with our impressive physical defence, even with our level advantage, nearly one hits us from full health. The recoil damage takes it out, but still, the word wow springs to mind. That was intense. Psychic Trainer Lucian is last, and I'm doing way better at this level than I thought I would for sure. This could be where it comes crashing down though, as we could get messed up by the Psychic types on show. We're not going to get fortune here, are we? Well, actually, we go for Swords Dance versus Mr. Mime, and it all hinges on what it does next. It goes for Light Screen rather than Reflect, and we go on the offensive and take it down with a Crunch. Mr. Mime can be irritating with screen tactics. Next is Espeon, and once again we land a Crunch to rock it hard and take it down. Alakazam is also ripped to pieces by Crunch, and the fourth opponent is Bronzong, who I doubt we will one hit. We land a Crunch and it goes for Calm Mind, which suits me down to the ground, as we've done enough damage to 2-hit the Steel Bell or whatever it's meant to be. Last is Gallade, and a Cross Poison is enough to take that thing down before it can go on the attack. Well golly, didn't expect to do that well. Do we have enough left in the tank to take down Cynthia? That is the question, isn't it? We might be able to power up somewhat versus Spiritomb at the start, but it does know Psychic, so that's highly dangerous. I do not know if one Swords Dance will be enough. Let's find out! No. No is the answer. Not even close to enough to one-hit Spiritomb. That is the long and short of it. We can 2-hit it with Crunch, but Swords Dance doesn't give us enough power to then go through the rest of her team. On the first attempt, we do crit Togekiss with a cross poison, but that's probably more luck than anything else, and we certainly can't one-hit Milotic either, and it ends us with Dragon Pulse. On another attempt, I do manage to get 2 Swords Dancers up versus Spiritomb, thanks to a low damage roll from its psychic attacks, but 2 still aren't enough for us to one-hit that with Crunch. Remember, Spiritomb did not have a weakness in this generation. So, yeah, I believe I'm going to have to go and grind now, I think, which is a little aggravating, but it is what it is. I return at level 95 and I'm curious to see what sort of fortune we get now. If we still have trouble, I have some rare candies to take us up to max level, and we'll have to take it from there. We hopefully are a bit more resistant and a bit more offensive now. Let us see if this improves things. This fight is agonisingly close. We go for our 2 Swords Dance attacks versus Spiritomb, and I hope it is going to be enough. We get hit with 2 psychic attacks, and that takes us into red health, but thankfully it doesn't lower our special defence. We then take it down with Crunch. Togekiss is next, and we strike at it with a cross poison that drops it where it hovers to give us a win there, and that is a relief. Third is Milotic, and just because it doesn't have any super effective moves doesn't mean that it can't hurt us. We drop it with cross poison though. Fourth is Garchomp. Uh-oh. We hit Crunch, but it survives hardily, eats the citrus berry, and then blasts us with Flamethrower to put us on red health, just as we've been building our health back up. Uh-oh! Something occurs to me as Garchomp goes down to another Crunch and Lucario comes out. We're on red health and it knows extreme speed. It hits that move and we survive on 1 HP, and I don't believe it. We drop Lucario with Brick Break, and Roserade is her last Pokemon, and it is a simple matter to down it with Cross Poison, and just like that, we've taken victory. I have no idea how, given how close that was, but it doesn't matter as we can go and enter the Hall of Fame. Well now, that was an experience. Was that the first time I've beaten Platinum at less than a level 100 in a solo run? I think it might be, you know. I'm not sure about that. I know when I did Platinum with only normal type moves but no normal type Pokemon, I did have a team of 6 that weren't there at that level, but they were all about the 60 to 70 mark. I digress. It was an experience. Drapion is one of my favourite Gen 4 Pokemon. That and Croagunk, I guess. As always, thanks for watching folks, I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you did, please leave a like and a comment, and please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. It is so good for the algorithm. Join me again next time for another Pokemon challenge as we see if I can beat Pokemon Y with just a single Vivillon. That's right, we're going Gen 6 for the first time in a while, as I said earlier. I know I did say I'd mix it up, but the last 4 challenges were basically what I had lined up for Poison type months, and it feels like I've got a few set up that were left over from bug themed month. Well, I did make the thumbnails for YouTube, so I might as well use them. It has actually been too long since I did a Gen 6 game. January to be precise, when I did Alpha Sapphire with a single Tepig. I've actually had another Auras challenge suggested recently, so I might be doing another trip over there before long. I've said before I wouldn't mind doing something in Gen 7, but I don't feel like I know the games well enough to get good recording footage. I even had a Colosseum challenge suggested, but I want to do a Let's Play on that game before I do. Don't know when. Feels like I'm proper getting into Jedi Survivor at the moment, so I'm playing that a lot right now. I've rambled enough. I'm going to jump off here. As always folks, this has been Once and Future Gamer, and this has been Pokemon Platinum with only a single Skorupi. Take care folks, have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye bye now, so long, see ya later.